Okay everybody, it's John again from Gasper's Automotive, and we've got updates. The first thing is, it's hot. We got the fan going, and we got the doors open, and it's hot. They mentioned it's hot, and it's humid. That too. It's just not very nice. So we're kind of sweating it out here, but we're doing our thing, and we're working on this 1926 Child's fire engine, and I just want to give you an update on this truck and also show you how to do valve lash on an overhead valve 6-cylinder here. This is really cool. It's got a really cool engine. It's a Wisconsin overhead valve 6-cylinder. It's pretty advanced for its time. 1926, there weren't many overhead valve engines around for most cars. Most cars are flatheads, so it's a really neat design, nicely made, nice big aluminum valve cover. Let's go check that out. I think I got it over here. It even has Child's cast right into it. It's really cool. Solid cast aluminum. You don't have anything made like that anymore, that's for sure. But this truck, we've got a couple problems. We got a siren's all broken here, loose. For some reason, when you push the starter button, the siren comes on. It's really weird. I don't know why, especially since the wire for it's disconnected. Pretty strange. Charge up the battery over here. Battery was low on water, and it just needs to be charged up. But this is from 7 to 21, so this is a good battery, and it's an interstate, so we're not changing that. That's a good thing. One thing you got to check on these, you got to check your water level. If you have a battery like this, you know, you have to check it every year or maybe even a couple times a year if you've got it on a charger, because it's going to lose water and it could damage the battery over time. And you also need to keep a trickle charger on these, keep it charged up fully. This thing's drawing a lot of amps. It's on, let's see what we got here. We got 9 amps right now. This has been on for 2 hours. So she's been drawn down for quite a while. It was enough to start the truck, but that doesn't mean the battery's good, so you got to keep your battery charged up. And we got the old borescope out from before. We were checking out the inside of the cylinders. They look like they were in pretty good shape. I didn't see anything. Let's go check out the these cylinders. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, everybody, let's check out these cylinders. This is going to be tough for me to do, holding all this stuff at once, but got the camera here. I think you can see the screen there pretty well. Yeah, it looks pretty good. You can see the cylinder here. I believe that's the cylinder bore. See if I can switch the mode here. There we go. Okay, that's the side camera. That's better. So there's the valve right there. So everything looks pretty clean in here. This cylinder looks pretty good. You got the looks like the exhaust valve over there. This looks like the intake here we're right on top of, and it's partially open. And you can see the cylinder bore. You can even see some crosshatch and stuff there. That actually looks really good. And there's the top of the piston. You can see there's some buildup on there, but not crazy bad or anything. This engine looks like it's in pretty good shape. So that's cylinder 2. Let's check out cylinder number 1. Cylinder 1 looking really similar. There's a spark plug, valves, pretty good. Let's check out. See, there's number 4. Same thing there. The piston's up the top. It's got some crust on it, but not that big of a deal. Cylinder 3 should also be up the top. Yep. Same thing. Cylinder 5. Yep. And cylinder 6. Yep. So this thing is in really good shape. And we've got Drew under here. He's working on. What's up, Drew?
What's up?
He's working on the transfer case here when he was taking apart the, well, you want to tell us what you found, Drew?
Yeah, so we were checking out, looking for leaks under here, and we found a lot of wobble in the U-joints and the bearings in the transfer case. So we're taking it apart and seeing what's up with it, trying to get the bearing out now, and you know, go from there, replace some new bearings and some new seals so it doesn't leak and it doesn't wobble anymore.
All right, yeah, this is the transfer case right here. And you got your input shaft and you got your output shaft. And he's trying to get those bearings out and without having to pull the case apart here, which we think we can do. And we'll see what happens. All right. Okay, everybody, we've got an update here. So the transfer case here we were talking about, you can see inside there's the shifter fork and the slide gear that goes back and forth, that engages and disengages the pump. You can either be in rotor pump with a fire engine. A lot of guys out there that are fire buffs know that, and but for anybody that doesn't know that, you shift from one to the other. There are trucks that they used to make that were pump and drive. Those have usually a pump in the front of the truck driven off the engine, or a totally separate pump that's driven by a diesel engine or gas engine in the back, totally separate from the drivetrain. But on a regular fire engine, you can either be in rotor pump, and that's what that does back there. This transfer case was in bad shape, so the bearings were making all kinds of noise, and we got the shaft out the front here, and see if I can spin this here. It's hard to hear. You can't really hear. This bearing's not too bad. That was the not so bad one, but these back here, these here were noisy. I don't know if you can hear that or not. You probably can't, but they're crunchy. You can see it moving around here. This is no good. This whole shaft was moving back and forth like this outside when we had it installed. So that was no good. And then here's the pilot bearing. I mean, you can't feel this, but I could feel here. It sounds like you're just dragging a bearing through sand. It's just really bad. This is yuck. So we don't want this. We can't have that. So we need to change this bearing, these two bearings, and this bearing here. But in order to get that out, we had to take this flange off and remove the shaft out of one end, and take this flange off and remove the shaft out of this end. And it fought us quite a bit. We had a lot of rust. You can see here on my finger, just really sandy rust on the inside of the bore where these bearings go. It's been there forever. I don't think anybody's ever had this out. I would doubt it. And it just made it really difficult to remove. So we're gonna clean all this up and make it new. And a quick general overview of this truck. It's a neat truck. You know, nickel's in great shape. It's complete. It's got the Child's tank on here, the Fomite tank, which is, you know, one of the main reasons. American LaFrance actually bought Child's right around 1926. So this may be the last year for Child's fire engines. They wanted this tank, and they wanted this system, actually, the foam system that they had developed. It was really, really great for putting out fire, and they had to have that for their trucks. So you know, they continued to sell this stuff to other companies, I believe, but the system, but I believe they discontinued the Child's fire engines. We got the fuel tank up here, and our hose reel, booster line, and everything on this truck is in really nice shape. The handrails, nothing's bent, dented. I don't see a dent anywhere on the tubing here. Usually these things have dents from hose couplings hitting them or something. This thing's perfect. There's not a ding on it. And we've got the little plaque back here. It has the fire apparatus number 1085. I'm guessing that that's the 85th truck made. I don't think Child's made over 1,000 trucks. I find that really hard to believe. I've never heard of a Child's fire engine before this. I know they're around, but they're not common. So that's the deal with that. And then we have the brake light inset into the rear here, which is pretty cool. Usually that sticks out. This is flush. I like that. Got Madison Hose Company #1 on here. Really nice wheel center here. I believe this is a Wisconsin rear end. It's a worm drive rear end in this. I believe that's a Wisconsin, and you got to take these off by removing the hose bed, and there's a couple of ears on there cast into it, and you pick it up like that, and it's balanced, and it comes right out. Just pull the axles, take the whole thing apart. It's actually pretty simple to do. Customer wants to get some new tires. These tires are very old. They should be replaced, so we're getting those. Just a neat truck though. Let's check out the dash here. So it's got a externally mounted speedometer here, which is really cool. This is probably just about the end of the line for these. You don't see this too much past this time period. You get to about 1929, 30. This stuff is obsolete. Stuff is mounted inside the dash on a metal dash. Wooden dashboards like this are going away. Really neat dash here. It's got child stamped right into it. All the different gauges and connections. It's pretty much original. It's really cool. We're hopefully going to go through and fix up a couple of these things. Got a busted out glass there. We're going to take a look at that. A couple loose items here not bolted down. We're going to fix that. So you get the gearbox here. The shifting pattern is cast right into the floor. That's so cool. 1, 2, 3, 4 in reverse. Got the grease cups for the bearings and on the pump here. All this cool plumbing that they had for the pump, all nickel plated. Really nice stuff. Nickel plated. Jenkins valves. Jenkins was a very common company to have valves for a fire engine. Just a cool truck. But anyway, let's take a look at this valve lash here. So one of the best ways to do valve lash is to use your distributor down here. So you rotate the engine until you find out where cylinder #1 is. Cylinder #1 happens to be pointed straight over here. So I had the cap on here before. This is #1. You take the cap off, you bring your rotor around, it goes clockwise, and you start here. That's going to be your compression on cylinder #1, and you do your valve lash on cylinder #1. Then you rotate the engine with your hand crank down here, or if you don't have that, you use a socket and a ratchet, and you rotate until you get to the next position here, which was going to be cylinder 4. On this engine, you got to know your firing order. This engine's 1, 4, 2, 6, 3, 5. So we went 1, then we moved it to 4, right about here, and we did cylinder #4, and so on until we got down to the end, and we have to do now cylinder #5. So the firing order is 1, 4, 2, 6, 3, 5. So the last one is cylinder 5. This guy right here. I believe I pointed to that before. I meant to say this is cylinder 4. This is #5. So we got to do this one here. So we picked out the size of our gaps here. I don't have a manual for this engine, so I'm just doing approximately where it should be for most overhead valve engines. I'm going with 10 and 12, 10 on the intake, 12 on the exhaust. That's a general good spot to start. These things were really out. I measured these, and they were 18 on the intake, and they were like 25 or 30 almost on the exhaust. Very noisy, very rattling around. So we're gonna adjust these now. So we figured out that this system is actually, the 4 valves are together in pairs, and the way this engine works is you've got exhaust, intake, intake, exhaust, exhaust, intake, intake, exhaust, exhaust, intake, intake, exhaust. So you have to remember these inner ones are intake and these outer ones are exhaust, and you won't mess it up. And we're just going to go through and do cylinder #5. I've got some tools over here. These are the tools you're going to need: flathead screwdriver, a 9/16 wrench, 1 set of feeler gauges for one size and 1 for the other. If you don't have 2 sets, you can use 1, but it's easier to get confused with using 1, flipping back and forth. If you have 2 like this, I set one straight like this, that's the intake, and then the one on the 90 is exhaust. Then I don't forget and I don't mess it up. Okay, so I'm going to start with the exhaust. We're going to get our feeler gauge under here. Going to have to loosen these nuts here, these lock nuts on your rocker arms. And then we're going to come in here and adjust this. Now this one here I had fooled with before. It was looser than this. You want to move this until your feeler gauge is just rubbing. I'm going to go a little tighter on this one because I'm doing this cold. A lot of times you have to do these running hot. I don't know if that's the case with this engine, so I'm just going to do, I'm going to pretend that it's a running hot. A lot of the older engines from this time period are running hot. So literally you'd have to adjust this thing with this thing rocking and oil spraying everywhere. It's a real pain. But we're going to go a little tight. That feels pretty good there. Then we're going to come in here, we're going to do the intake, or the exhaust, excuse me, I got that wrong. See, I wasn't paying attention. This is the exhaust. We're going to come in and tighten this up. I grabbed the wrong feeler gauge. This is the exhaust one here. We tighten that up. That's good. Now I'm going to re-loosen this one here because I messed up and did it wrong. I'm going to put the 10 thousandths feeler gauge in here. I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit. So that's drags. And then I'm going to tighten this. Check it again. That's it. That's how you do your valve lash, and you just repeat that process over and over again. Wherever your rotor points to, you could start off on cylinder 4, cylinder 2, cylinder 3, doesn't matter. As long as that rotor is pointing towards the correct spark plug wire, that's the cylinder that's on compression stroke and that has both valves closed all the way, so you can adjust them. We're going to do some more videos on this truck. We're going to get into brakes and all kinds of other stuff, but I hope you guys enjoyed this, and keep that old eye running.